Welcome to a deep dive into one of the darkest, most distinctive superhero sequels ever made. Today, we're venturing into the mysterious realm of Batman Returns, 1992, to uncover its complicated script history, unforgettable performances, and lavish production secrets. Buckle up for a thrilling ride through Gotham's twisted streets. 1. A storm of script revisions. After Batman, 1989, soared at the box office, Warner Brothers wasted no time approving a sequel. They initially handed the scriptwriting reins to Sam Hamm, who had penned the successful original. Soon, however, Tim Burton felt a fresh perspective was needed to achieve a darker, more introspective tone. Enter Daniel Waters, whose edgy, often offbeat writing style promised to bring surreal twists to Gotham City. But as production approached, disagreements flared. Burton and Waters reportedly clashed over character arcs, dramatic pacing, and how deeply to delve into psychological themes. Eventually, Waters left, leading to Wesley Strick stepping in to rework earlier drafts while preserving essential story beats. The rewriting process became something of a juggling act, shuffling plot elements and shifting character motivations. Despite all this upheaval, Daniel Waters ended up as the film's only credited screenwriter, while Sam Hamm received a story credit, reflecting his initial contributions. 2. The plot lines that never were. Originally, Batman Returns was envisioned as a direct sequel picking up right after the events of Batman, 1989. Early drafts suggested Bruce Wayne might propose to Vicky Vale, revealing a more hopeful personal life for Gotham's brooding protector. Another subplot hinted at exploring Jack Napier's past, potentially adding depth to the man who became the Joker. Elsewhere, Harvey Dent, played by Billy D. Williams, was expected to take on a more significant role, ultimately foreshadowing his transformation into Two-Face. However, the studio felt the Penguin had a stronger pull for audiences. As a result, these intriguing threads were scrapped or saved for future use. In fact, certain ideas, like the possibility of Wayne Manor or even the Batcave being infiltrated, were partially recycled in Batman Forever. The final version of Batman Returns, therefore, presented a more condensed narrative, focusing heavily on the Penguin's unsettling origin and Catwoman's radical shift into a whip-wielding anti-hero. 3. Burton's hesitation to return. Despite Batman's tremendous success, Tim Burton felt uneasy about directing a sequel. He found the idea of doing another comic book movie so soon a bit absurd, especially given the studio's desire to capitalize on every detail that made the first film a blockbuster. Burton openly admitted he wasn't fully satisfied with the pacing and tone of his earlier effort, calling some portions boring or too constrained. Concerned that a second film might limit his creative instincts, he initially turned the project down. However, Warner Brothers was eager to keep Burton at the helm. They recognized that his signature gothic style, combined with his capacity to deliver box office gold, made him indispensable. Ultimately, he agreed to direct again on one non-negotiable condition: total creative freedom. This stipulation allowed him to push the boundaries, making Batman Returns a darker, more psychologically driven tale than its predecessor. 4. The Robin that almost happened. Studio executives longed to introduce Robin into the cinematic universe. Early drafts featured the Boy Wonder teaming up with Batman to fight crime in Gotham's bitter winter streets. Marlon Wayans, then an emerging talent, was surprisingly cast in the part, marking a significant shift from the traditional depiction of Robin. However, as the screenplay ballooned with villains and complex subplots, the filmmakers worried that adding Robin would overcrowd the movie and dilute its ominous atmosphere. Ultimately, they decided to remove him from Batman Returns, focusing on the dynamic interplay of Batman, the Penguin, and Catwoman. Yet Wayans still received payment for the unused role, thanks to a 2-picture contract he had signed. Remarkably, he even continued to get residual checks despite never filming a single scene. The role of Robin eventually surfaced in Batman Forever, 1995, reimagined with Chris O'Donnell wearing the famed domino mask. 5. Keaton's subtle strategy. While many sequels place the hero front and center, Batman Returns curiously dials back Batman's dialogue. this was no studio mandate. Rather, it stemmed from Michael Keaton's own perception of the character's visual power. Convinced that the batsuit itself projected a strong, silent menace, Keaton reportedly slashed half of his lines, emphasizing presence over chatter. He reasoned that a few terse sentences paired with the suit's imposing silhouette could speak louder than any extensive monologue. Screenwriter Daniel Waters later admitted Keaton's instincts served the film well. By letting the Penguin, Catwoman, and Max Schreck dominate much of the dialogue, Batman's understated role lent the movie a heightened sense of mystique. This approach also set a compelling contrast. While the villains ranted and schemed, Batman lurked watchfully in the shadows, reinforcing the idea that Gotham's guardian is as much a symbol as a man. 6. Rivals for the Catwoman role. The search for Selina Kyle Catwoman triggered considerable buzz in Hollywood, with major stars vying for the role. Rumors swirled about Meryl Streep, Cher, Madonna, and Demi Moore, expressing interest or being on the studio's shortlist. Ultimately, the part initially went to Annette Bening, an acclaimed actress known for her versatility. But soon after her casting, Bening discovered she was pregnant, leading her to step away from the project. This twist paved the way for Michelle Pfeiffer to claw her way into the coveted role. Though Pfeiffer wasn't the initial frontrunner, she poured herself into months of grueling physical training and immersed herself in the complexities of Catwoman's fractured psyche. Her portrayal transformed Selina Kyle from a timid secretary into a vengeful anti-hero, balancing fear, sensuality, and raw determination. In retrospect, it's almost impossible to envision anyone else delivering such a beguiling, ferocious performance. 7. Sean Young's audacious approach. Among all the Catwoman contenders, Sean Young's audition attempt stands out for its sheer boldness. Having missed her chance to play Vicky Vale in the first Batman due to an injury, she was determined not to be overlooked again. Donning a homemade Catwoman costume, complete with mask and faux claws, she stormed the Warner Brothers offices without prior notice. Young reportedly leaped onto a sofa and declared, "I am Catwoman," to shocked executives. While her passion was undeniable, the stunt didn't land her an official audition, let alone the part. Still, her fearless display became a Hollywood legend, symbolizing how far some actors will go in pursuit of a dream role. Young has since defended her approach, insisting that this is precisely how the fiercely unpredictable Catwoman might have made an entrance in real life. 8. Building the Penguin around DeVito screenwriter. Daniel Waters had only one actor in mind for the Penguin, Danny DeVito. Known for comedic roles and a dynamic physical presence, DeVito was seen as capable of delivering the disquieting blend of menace and tragedy required for Oswald Cobblepot. Warner Brothers considered other talents, from comedic powerhouses like Joe Pesci to unorthodox choices like Rowan Atkinson. DeVito hesitated initially, wary of the heavy makeup and darker tone. That changed when Jack Nicholson, who famously played the Joker, encouraged him to accept. Once DeVito committed, the creative team set about morphing him into a grotesque figure with pallid skin, sharpened teeth, and an unsettling waddle. Balancing comedic beats with raw sorrow, DeVito's Penguin is as pitiable as he is horrifying, an abandoned child who seeks revenge against the city he believes cast him aside. His performance would remain a defining take on the classic villain. 9. The Monkey's Surprise Attack. One of the set's most bizarre mishaps revolved around a small monkey tasked with delivering a note from Batman to the Penguin. The moment the animal came face to face with Danny DeVito in full Penguin regalia, chaos ensued. Spooked by his ghostly makeup, the monkey shrieked and latched onto DeVito's costumed midsection. The actor's protective padding luckily prevented any serious injury, but the unexpected incident forced a pause in filming. Cast and crew scrambled to calm the frightened primate, ensuring both performer and animal remained unharmed. The anecdote quickly became legendary among those working on the picture, illustrating the powerful and occasionally frightening impact of DeVito's transformation. In a movie packed with elaborate sets, explosive effects, and menacing characters, it was often these smaller, offbeat moments that left an indelible mark on the production's collective memory. 10. A German expressionist, Gotham. Tim Burton's vision for Batman Returns was steeped in German expressionism, a filmmaking style characterized by distorted set designs, stark lighting contrasts, and heavily stylized imagery. This approach harkened back to silent-era classics like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, 1920. The result was a warped, claustrophobic Gotham that underscored the city's moral decay. Towering buildings tilted at strange angles, and shadowy alleys appeared to close in on unsuspecting citizens. Production designer Bo Welch collaborated closely with Burton, constructing sets that fused a surreal nightmare with a big-budget Hollywood production. Even the Penguin's subterranean lair borrowed heavily from expressionist motifs, featuring angled staircases, swirling patterns, and oppressive architecture. The film's overall visual language became an extension of its characters' inner turmoil, especially the grotesque penguin and the psychologically fractured Catwoman. In doing so, Burton crafted a Gotham that felt both mythic and disturbingly real. 11th. Inspiration for Max Schreck. Max Schreck, the ruthless businessman who manipulates events behind the scenes, takes his name from Max Schreck, the actor who portrayed Count Orlok in the seminal silent horror film Nosferatu, 1922. This nod to German expressionism fits perfectly with Tim Burton's overall aesthetic. Played by Christopher Walken, Schreck oozes a polished veneer that barely conceals his unscrupulous nature. There's a sly historical reference tucked into his dialogue. He casually mentions staging a rag fire, invoking the real-life Reichstag fire of 1933 that enabled the Nazis to seize control. Such allusions hint that Schreck's brand of corporate evil echoes more nefarious, real-world power grabs. Through this subtle link to actual events, Burton and his writers highlighted how unscrupulous figures exploit crises for personal gain. Schreck's involvement makes him a terrifyingly plausible villain, almost more so than the Penguin, because his outward respectability masks a deep and calculating depravity. 12th. Controversy over the dark tone. Although Batman Returns featured a line of Happy Meal toys through McDonald's, the film's bleak atmosphere caught many parents off guard. They expected a typical family-friendly superhero romp, but found themselves confronting scenes of abduction, grisly imagery, and overtly sexual undertones, particularly in Catwoman's portrayal. Parental advocacy groups swiftly condemned the movie's content, questioning whether children should be exposed to such mature themes. McDonald's, facing a wave of criticism, pulled its promotional campaign earlier than planned. Meanwhile, critics debated whether Tim Burton had taken the story too far into gothic horror territory. For some viewers, the movie's macabre tone was a bold artistic statement in line with the darker aspects of the source material. For others, it felt like a misguided attempt to force a horror aesthetic onto a beloved comic book brand. Nonetheless, Batman Returns pushed boundaries for superhero cinema, opening the door for later films to tackle adult themes more explicitly. 13. Michelle Pfeiffer's feathered stunt. In a particularly shocking scene, Catwoman holds the Penguin's pet bird in her mouth, threatening to swallow it. Audiences might assume the production used a prop or special effect. Instead, Michelle Pfeiffer insisted on using a real bird to maximize authenticity. Reflecting later, Pfeiffer admitted she questioned the wisdom of placing a live animal between her teeth, though it captured Catwoman's ferocity perfectly. The dangerous moment came off smoothly, as neither actress nor bird was harmed. Cast and crew were astonished, and Pfeiffer's readiness to commit to such an extreme choice underscored her dedication to the role. This gamble embodied the fearless unpredictability that defines Selina Kyle's transformation, from mousy secretary to unhinged vigilante. As a result, the scene stands out as one of the film's most memorable glimpses into Catwoman's volatile psyche, sharply illustrating how far she's willing to go to upend the Penguin's advantage. 14th. An ending rewritten at the last minute. Tim Burton initially intended for Selina Kyle's story to conclude with a fatal sacrifice, showing her demise after zapping Max Schreck. That bleak finale might have brought a note of tragic closure to Catwoman's arc. Yet just 2 weeks before the movie's release, Warner Bros. Decided they wanted to keep possibilities open for a spin-off. Scrambling, the team shot a new scene where Selina is glimpsed at the end, gazing up at the bat signal. Because Michelle Pfeiffer wasn't available, a stand-in wore the Catwoman's suit for this fleeting image. This change hinted at Catwoman's survival, a question that teased potential future adventures. Although it would be over a decade before Catwoman, 2004, hit theaters, starring Halle Berry in a separate storyline, this last-minute tweak gave fans a tantalizing possibility that Selina Kyle still prowled Gotham's rooftops, waiting for the right moment to resurface. 15. Michael Keaton's steeper paycheck. Having proven his box office draw in Batman, 1989, Michael Keaton returned for the sequel with leverage to renegotiate his salary. Reports differ on the final number. While some claim he earned $1 million, others suggest it was closer to $10 million or $11 million. Either way, Warner Brothers reportedly balked at the amount, but ultimately agreed, believing Keaton was irreplaceable. Beyond his pay raise, Keaton had other requests, like a zipper for the batsuit to ease the practical challenges of wearing it for long hours. He also wanted subtle design tweaks, including a revised chest emblem and alterations to the cowl. Director Tim Burton supported these changes, recognizing that Keaton's comfort could enhance his performance. The resulting look preserved the dark mystique of The Dark Knight while boosting the actor's morale on set, ensuring he could slip into the Batman persona without literal physical strain. 16. Catwoman's vacuum seal costume. Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman costume remains iconic, largely because of how sinuous and impossibly tight it appeared on screen. This was no illusion. The latex suit was vacuum sealed onto Pfeiffer's body before filming each scene. Once sealed, she had only a short time to perform before the crew had to break the seal to prevent her from fainting. Over the 6-month shoot, Pfeiffer rotated through around 60 such suits, each costing roughly $1,000. The expense reflected both the complexity of the design and the need to keep them pristine under demanding shooting conditions. The final effect was mesmerizing. Catwoman's glossy, stitched-together look became instantly recognizable, symbolizing her fractured psyche. Every movement accentuated her agility and unpredictability. While the technique was undoubtedly uncomfortable, it contributed significantly to Catwoman's haunting presence. Her every breath and every whip crack carried a heightened sense of tension, capturing the precarious balance between beauty and danger. 17. The Catwoman poster craze. When Warner Brothers released promotional images of Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, they sparked a cultural phenomenon. Bus stops, city billboards, and movie theater lobbies showcased her sultry, formidable pose. But fans loved these posters so much that theft became rampant. People pried open display cases, attempting to snag these collectible images for their private collections. The studio repeatedly replaced them, only to see them vanish again. Eventually, local authorities arranged for increased patrols around certain areas to deter would-be thieves. Ironically, this only made the remaining posters more coveted. Over time, large-format Catwoman displays evolved into prized memorabilia that could fetch surprising sums among collectors. The studio's frustration contrasted sharply with Pfeiffer's amusement, as she later recounted how the phenomenon underscored Catwoman's enduring appeal. In a film loaded with compelling visuals, those stolen posters remain a testament to the character's magnetic pull on the public imagination. 18. PFEIFFER'S intense training regimen becoming Catwoman demanded more than simply wearing a striking outfit. Determined to embody Selina Kyle's lethal grace, Michelle Pfeiffer dove into rigorous physical training. Over 6 months, she practiced kickboxing, weightlifting, yoga, and karate, pushing her body to develop the speed and flexibility Catwoman would need. Her crowning achievement may be her mastery of the 12-foot bullwhip. Pfeiffer devoted weeks to perfecting it, culminating in a scene where she effortlessly decapitates multiple mannequin heads in one uninterrupted take. The crew erupted in applause, awed by her precision. Critics noticed, too. Many praised how Pfeiffer balanced Catwoman's physical prowess with the character's emotional turbulence, forging a portrayal that exuded raw empowerment. This commitment to stunt work and fight choreography elevated Catwoman from a mere side villain to a riveting anti-hero whose every movement radiated danger and self-possession. 19. Burgess Meredith's missed cameo. In a nod to Batman lore, the production team wanted Burgess Meredith, the Penguin from the 1960s TV series, to cameo as Oswald Cobblepot's father in Batman Returns. Unfortunately, Meredith's deteriorating health prevented his participation. Instead, Tim Burton cast Paul Reubens, best known for Pee-wee's Big Adventure, to take on the brief but crucial role of Tucker Cobblepot. Diane Salinger, Reubens' co-star in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, portrayed the mother. Their brief appearance in the film's opening underscores the tragedy of the Penguin's upbringing, as they abandon him to the icy sewers. Though the cameo was short, it added a poignant backstory to the monstrous villain, showing how cruelty shaped him from infancy. While longtime fans missed the chance to see Meredith pass the Penguin torch, Reubens' appearance still served as a playful Easter egg for those familiar with Burton's earlier work. 20. Penguin chilling and breeding. To create the Penguin's lair, the filmmakers brought in dozens of African penguins and king penguins. Keeping them comfortable on a scorching Hollywood soundstage posed a challenge. The studio invested heavily in refrigeration units, daily shipments of crushed ice, and a chilled water tank where the birds could swim. Reports estimate the production spent about $1 million to maintain these carefully regulated temperatures. Ironically, the penguins thrived so well in this controlled environment that several of them mated, laying eggs during filming. Alongside real penguins, the crew used lifelike animatronics and occasional CGI to fill out the waddling army commanded by Oswald Cobblepot. The presence of living, breathing birds added authenticity and emotional weight to scenes, reminding the audience that the penguin's bond with his avian cohorts went beyond a simple gimmick. It was a twisted reflection of how he identified more with these creatures than with human society. 21st. ELFMAN'S darker score. Danny Elfman returned to compose the music for Batman Returns, but this time he dialed up the eerie and melancholic undertones. Whereas Batman, 1989, featured a triumphant hero theme woven throughout, Batman Returns called for dissonant chords and a subdued sense of dread. The Penguin's leitmotif captures his tortured, outcast nature, while Catwoman's theme uses breathy strings and staccato percussion to evoke her delicate yet dangerous persona. Elfman's approach heightened the film's gothic mood, making each confrontation feel more ominous. This departure from the more bombastic heroism of the previous score underscores how much darker Burton's sequel is. Critics applauded the music for complementing the city's twisted aesthetics and the characters' inner turmoil, solidifying Elfman's reputation as a master at merging fairy tale whimsy with brooding tension. Even decades later, the Batman Returns soundtrack stands out for its ability to deepen the film's psychological complexity. 22nd Oscar recognition. Despite controversy, while Batman Returns sparked debates about its suitability for younger audiences, the film still earned 2 Academy Award nominations, one for Best Makeup and another for Best Visual Effects. Although it ultimately did not win either category, the recognition validated the enormous effort poured into its grimly imaginative design. Transforming Danny DeVito into a flipper-handed, pallid-skinned penguin required meticulous prosthetic work. Equally impressive were the large-scale visuals, from the towering cityscape sets to the commanding presence of mechanical penguins. These elements elevated Batman Returns beyond mere action fare, demonstrating how well-crafted visual artistry can lend a sense of spectacle to a darker narrative. The nominations also highlighted Tim Burton's unique brand of filmmaking, in which striking aesthetics and technical wizardry drive the audience deeper into an emotional, uncanny world. Though overshadowed by the film's controversies, these Oscar nods remain a testament to its bold, unsettling vision. 23rd. Building a massive studio Gotham. Opting for tight creative control, Tim Burton and production designer Bo Welch chose to construct almost all of Gotham within a huge Warner Bros. Soundstage in Burbank, California. This approach gave the team the power to manipulate lighting, angles, and architecture without the unpredictability of real-world locations. The sets featured crooked alleyways, ominous facades, and unsettling carnival-themed elements, mirroring the Penguin's circus background. The result was a claustrophobic city that dwarfed its inhabitants, making them feel perpetually under threat. Fake snow blanketed the streets to emphasize a bitter winter atmosphere, further enhancing the film's eerie gloom. Despite the logistical challenges of designing and building such a colossal environment, the team succeeded in crafting a Gotham that looked both grand and nightmarish. By going indoors, Batman Returns feels more stylized and coherent in its tone, immersing viewers in a realm where every corner hints at hidden perils. 24. Burton's near cameo. Rumor holds that Tim Burton considered appearing in a minor cameo, possibly during one of the Penguin's crowd scenes or in the Red Triangle Circus Gang sequence. This wouldn't have been unusual. He's slipped quick cameos into other works, but time constraints allegedly derailed the idea. Overseeing elaborate sets, coordinating advanced special effects, and fine-tuning performances from high-profile actors left little room for cameo hijinks. Nevertheless, fans continue to speculate on where a hidden Burton might have popped up had he managed to film such a scene. Some believe he could have portrayed an offbeat ringmaster, blending seamlessly into the circus aesthetic. Though the cameo never materialized, it remains an intriguing what-if, adding to the film's lore. Considering Burton's known penchant for eccentric appearances, it's fun to imagine him lurking in the background of Gotham's seedy underbelly, if only for a fleeting instant. 25th. Bob Ringwood's fashioned realities. Costume designer Bob Ringwood, who had already revolutionized the Batsuit in Batman, 1989, returned to push creative boundaries in Batman Returns. He embraced Tim Burton's darker vision by refining Batman's costume to accentuate a sleeker silhouette while adding essential functionality, such as the previously absent zipper. Ringwood also extended his imaginative flair to the Penguin's wardrobe. Drawing from Victorian influences, he combined tattered elegance with grotesque details, ragged edges, misaligned buttons, a soiled top hat, to highlight Oswald Cobblepot's tragic backstory. For Catwoman, Ringwood designed an almost patchwork-like latex suit, accentuating the character's fractured identity with overt white stitching that seemed on the verge of unraveling. Together, these costume choices reflected each character's internal struggles. Whether it was Batman's stoic resolve, Catwoman's barely contained fury, or the Penguin's resentful longing for acceptance. By aligning costumes with character arcs, Ringwood helped forge a cinematic world drenched in both style and symbolism. 26. Shaping future superhero films. Batman Returns set a precedent for blending genre storytelling with gothic horror and moral complexity, moving superhero cinema beyond flashy heroics. Nevertheless, its grim nature alienated some younger fans and raised studio concerns. In response, Warner Bros. Pivoted to a lighter aesthetic for Batman Forever, 1995, and Batman and Robin, 1997, adding neon sets, comedic dialogue, and vibrant production design. Over time, however, many viewers came to appreciate Batman Returns for its willingness to dive into the psychological shadows typically absent from mainstream blockbusters. This approach laid groundwork for later superhero movies, like Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy, to explore heavier themes, moral ambiguity, and flawed heroes. While Batman Returns might have been too idiosyncratic for universal praise upon release, its legacy endures. It paved the way for an audience now open to more adventurous, introspective takes on costumed vigilantes and their equally tortured adversaries. 27. The Aborted Catwoman Project. After Michelle Pfeiffer's electrifying turn, Warner Bros. Briefly contemplated a standalone Catwoman feature that would continue Selina Kyle's story from Batman Returns. Early concepts aimed to dive further into her struggle with duality, docile Selina clashing with her vengeful feline alter ego. There were also plans to expand on the unresolved tension between her and Bruce Wayne, suggesting a battle of wills forged by shared trauma. However, budgeting hurdles, scheduling conflicts, and creative indecision plagued the project. Pfeiffer's busy career made it tough to align the perfect script and timing. Eventually, the idea fell into limbo and faded away. Years later, the studio attempted a completely separate Catwoman, 2004, starring Halle Berry, a box office disappointment bearing little resemblance to Pfeiffer's portrayal. Fans still debate what might have emerged had Tim Burton or a similarly daring director continued Catwoman's evolution in a direct spin-off. Thanks for joining this journey through the eerie magic and behind-the-scenes drama of Batman Returns. If you found these revelations intriguing, hit that like button, share your thoughts below, and subscribe. Spread the word to fellow Bat fans, and let's keep exploring the untold depths of iconic cinema together.